Well, other than a good cup of tea, I think reading scripture with other people, it can be a bit tricky sometimes, can't it? But I read recently in this little book by Rowan Williams called Being Human, he says none of us can see the back of our own heads. And I think that's really useful when we think about reading scripture with other people, because there are things in life that I can't see. Like, I can't see the back of my own head. I need somebody else's sight, somebody else's vision to get the full picture. And I think that, you know, different people, they've had different upbringings, they have different pasts, they read scripture differently, and they see things that I won't see when I'm reading scripture. And I think bearing all that in mind is really useful when we come to read the Bible with other people.
I particularly find it helpful when we linger with a passage for some time. And one technique that I use with one of my groups of friends is that we read the passage and then we call out any words or phrases that stand out to us. And it just really allows time for me to absorb the passage and to get to know it well. And then finally we spend some time reflecting and discussing what God might be revealing or saying to us through the passage, and what we feel we might need to do in response. It certainly helps me not only understand scripture, but also to be in a place of expecting God to speak to me through what I'm reading.
I really find that media, podcasts, videos help me to unpack or to share my thoughts with others and to get their opinions as well.
I love reading scripture with people who aren't Christians. I love reading those Bible passages with people who are hearing them for the first time. The questions and the curiosity of when they hear it, and some of the awkward questions as well. There are even questions that some Christians would want to ask but feel fearful of asking. I just get really excited sharing the Gospels and reading Bible passages with people who aren't believers and are skeptical and want to pull it apart and want to point out all the holes in it. God can hold his own. He's there, you know. You can pull him apart, you can scrutinize him. He hasn't made us sheep. We are sheep, but we're not drones. And he wants us to be inquisitive, he wants us to question, but we have to accept his answers as well.
It's funny that you asked this question. Recently, a friend of mine was doing a sermon, and this has never happened before, but he goes, "Oh mate, could you go through this scripture with me? This is the one that I'll be preaching about." And we sat down and kind of batted ideas around, and it was so refreshing and just a new experience for me in that sense, like really intentionally digging into scripture in this way, and just kind of seeing each other's perspectives and challenging each other's views on the scripture and reading through together. And it just reminded me, it's such a blessing to have other people journeying with you and challenging each other, encouraging each other, everybody kind of seeing different things and kind of seeing something that you didn't notice, and encouraging each other in reading, sharing our own experience and knowledge and views while we dig into the word together. And it's just like any meal, it always tastes better when it's shared with other people.
The way that I find most helpful is actually through small groups as part of church. So at the moment I'm part of a group of around 6 to 10 of us, and we meet regularly, and some part of those times we actually go through Bible studies together, whereby we'll have read certain passages in the week leading up to it, and then we'll meet together, have a bit of food, which is obviously very important, and then we'll actually have a time of worship, and then a time of talking through what we read and how we can apply it to our lives. Having open, honest discussions with others, with each other, you know, recognising those bits that we may not understand, or bits that might have slightly different views on, but actually having those discussions with friends and Christians, I find really helpful to me.